Greetings everyone, welcome to Guiding Needle Acupuncture video blog. My name is Thomas, and today I have a special guest, Eric Thompson. Eric Thompson is the founder of Subtle Energy Sciences. Eric is a researcher and inventor, former co-founder of Biofield Technologies. Subtle Energy Sciences is committed to bringing innovative energy medicine to the digital age. And here at Guiding Needle Acupuncture, my mission is to elevate the consciousness, robust health, and vitality of humanity. So I'm very excited to interview Eric Thompson. So, how's everything today, Eric?
It's going great. Thanks for having me, Thomas.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have an interview with you today. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how did you get into subtle energy and creating this company, Subtle Energy Sciences?
Sure. Well, I would say in a lot of ways my story is kind of atypical in the sense that, when you interview a lot of people who have businesses, they'll talk about how they were in the business world for years and they were successful at this, that, and the other. And in my case, I wasn't. I was horribly unsuccessful in life for a long time. And I really went through a lot of suffering, as a kid. I won't go into everything, but I had a very troubled childhood. As the story goes, by the time I was in fifth grade, my teachers at that elementary school had put together some type of a paper that they sent to my mom. They wanted her to sign it to have me taken out of the public schools and enrolled at the local state hospital school for troubled children. They didn't feel like I was a good fit for public schools because I was so disruptive. And my mom chose not to do that, and I think it was probably a good decision. I still struggled a lot in school. By the time they made it through my second time through my junior year in high school, I was held back. I flunked the first time around, and the second time around, my vice principal sat me down and he said, "Eric, I've never done this before, but I'm going to recommend that you quit school because if you don't, you're going to get arrested or something bad's going to happen." So my mother was smart and got me signed up to take my GED, which I did right after I quit high school. And really, from that point on, I've struggled in life, most of my adult life. I would say roughly 5 years later, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I went through, and I spent some time in a psychiatric hospital. Life was very difficult. I had a hard time holding a job. And I was in and out of various religious organizations and religious groups. And I eventually set on a path to try and heal myself because the medications weren't doing it for me. I started, some of the Christian churches I had attended at that time, they were all in all, they were very good people, but they didn't know how to handle me because I was kind of very neurotic. And I realized if I was going to find any purpose in life, I was going to have to heal myself. It basically got so bad in my life that I came to the point where I knew I was either going to have to once and for all take a spiritual practice and transfer my life and dedicate my life to something higher than myself, or I was going to have to commit suicide. There was really no in between. And I guess that's what it took for me to, eventually get on the path to doing that. So roughly about, I guess it's been about 15 years ago, I eventually did take up a meditation practice. And in the beginning, I also started learning about different emotional release techniques. And I started practicing meditation and emotional releasing very intensively. And I started experiencing heightened states of consciousness very quickly. It was, I thought, I'm on the road. I had this, I thought I was going to be able to heal my bipolar disorder in no time at all. I was going into ecstatic states and meditating 3 hours a day and thinking, I'm on the high road to enlightenment and everything's going to change. But then I hit another period where I just went into this horrible depression that lasted several months, where I just got sucked into a black hole and couldn't get myself out of it. And when I finally did get out of it, I was kind of demoralized, because I thought, why didn't that meditation and all that emotional releasing, why didn't it get at the cause of whatever's causing this? I thought I was making progress, and it felt like I hadn't made any progress at all. And so I eventually said, I am making some progress, so I got to stay with the meditation. So I started experimenting with various types of meditation technologies like brainwave entrainment. And I found that they helped me to go deeper. And it did kind of help, it did seem to help boost my moods and help me to stay a little more stabilized. And during this time I was homeless, by the way. I spent the better part of 5 years homeless, but in different ways. So like I spent roughly a year and a half living in a van, roughly 2 years on the streets, roughly a year in and out of homeless shelters, and roughly a year living in a tent.
Wow.
And I finally was able to take up the meditation practice, and I was homeless and meditating every day. And I was still working, but I was saving my money to invest it into more of these technologies rather than just getting into an apartment and falling into the same patterns. I thought I'll just save my money and invest it in these expensive technologies so I can get myself where I'll be more stable once I do get an apartment and I can keep it. And I started making more and more progress, and I eventually decided to go to college. I had a GED. I got admitted into the largest community college in the country, in Phoenix, Arizona, Mesa Community College, and all of a sudden, it's like everything had changed. I became literally, I won every top scholarship they had within 3 years, and became one of the top 20 students in top community college students in the country, and had I was featured in USA Today magazine. I mean, it was this complete 180 degree shift.
Wow. And
during that time in there, I taught the psychology department into letting me conduct a graduate level double-blind placebo-controlled experiment on brainwave entrainment that I designed myself, and then from there, I transferred to Naropa University, where I was pursuing an undergraduate in transpersonal psychology. And this gets in a whole other story. For numerous reasons, that ended up not working out. It wasn't because of on the academic level. I was really quite, to be honest, bored with the classes there. It was not at all what I had expected it to be, and it was a very difficult social situation there. My grades were doing great, but there were other problems I was experiencing there. Essentially, it's really weird. I don't know how to talk about it without creating some kind of controversy. Essentially, I was very well read. I was very passionate about contemplative neuroscience, and we had a class there on meditation on the brain, and everything the way that I approached it was, I felt like having respect for other people first and foremost was always very important to me. But for some reason, I just say this hesitatingly, but apparently I was more well-read on the subject than my professor. And it would make my professor angry at me, and it would make, I just never had experienced in my 3 years. It was a very different milieu there, a very different environment. Students would yell in my face, would walk out of class, and I couldn't figure out. And finally, I was giving a presentation on stage in front of the college, and I got heckled on the stage. And this was after months of experiencing social problem after social problem after social problem, and I just came to the conclusion that they didn't want me there at that college. So I left and felt very dejected, and I went into a deep, profound depression that lasted the whole year. But by that time, I'd planted some seeds. I had a good friend who was interested in partnering with me around the brainwave entrainment technology that I was producing at that time. And he wound up getting me introduced to John and Pam Dupuy, who John Dupuy heads up Integral Recovery. And next thing I know, I'm starting a business with them that ended up becoming fairly successful. And but by that time, I was also I was wanting to take my meditation practice to a whole new level. So in 2009, I had met and started an ongoing student-teacher relationship with a Shakti Pop Master for about 3 years. And it just completely shifted my consciousness and my experience around energy, because the whole relationship was based on these Shakti Pop transmissions that I was receiving long distance over the phone, right? Wow. And through recordings. And that's when it came to me, that energy makes up all the universe. So here I am doing brainwave entrainment, which is very useful, but I started to come up against all the limitations of brainwave entrainment. Frankly, at a certain point, I got bored with it, and I started seeing a lot of its limitations, and I started getting this idea that energy could be captured digitally, and we could create digital media. So, for example, for every intention, there has to be an energetic body on which that intention is formed and on which it rides. So if we can capture that energetic body of an intention, or source that intention directly from the quantum field digitally, and then amplify that in such a way that you can turn your electronic devices, your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your computer, into basically a futuristic healing device that conditions your immediate environment to allow you fulfill more of your potential, depending on what your goals are. I just thought, man, that's a more unlimited technology. The sky's the limit.
So essentially what you've done is you've created a technology that interfaces with consciousness.
Yes, very much, and I just got excited with the possibilities. And of course, there is a bit of a gap that you have to go through there, because when you capture subtle energy digitally, the original captured signal is very weak. And so I had to experiment on how to amplify the signal, and I started incorporating it into some of my early work with iWake Technologies. And at first, some of my partners, they didn't know what to think about it. They didn't necessarily feel the energy at first, because in truth, most people, when it comes to subtle energy, most people either don't know it exists or don't believe it exists or are completely unaware of it.
Right.
And so the ability to sense and tangibly feel subtle energy, it is a real sense. And most of us just have that sense highly underdeveloped. And so what I had to overcome with the early stages of the technology was finding a way to get that original digitally captured energetic signature strong enough in amplitude that when it was played on a device, that it would overcome even the average person's very underdeveloped subtle senses, and they'd still be able to, if not feel the energy directly, at least notice its effects much more quickly. And I knew early on from the experiments that I was doing at home that this was working. So, for example, my first really big aha moment was when I discovered there are certain carrier frequencies that we work with in this technology. And these carrier frequencies have been discovered by other researchers before me in various fields of research. And one of them is the French School of Radiesthesia, where two French researchers by the name of Jean-Marie de Valazal used calibrated pendulums and a unique form of dowsing that they call medical dowsing or physical dowsing to detect and measure very subtle gradations of energy. And they detected 12 specific gradations of subtle energy that they called the 12 higher harmonics, one of which they found was a carrier wave and was associated with places of prayer. So it was literally a spiritual carrier wave that has evolved in communicating with the divine. And they also found, there were other researchers that found that this same carrier wave, there was a Russian researcher by the name of Skariatin who did this specialized form of calibrated pendulum dowsing or physical dowsing in Egypt for a number of years. And one of the things he did was he would douse the graves of the Coptic saints. And he found that they had they emitted large amounts of this spiritual carrier wave. And then he was able later to correlate that with, if you've ever heard of the incorruptibility of the saints.
Just from reading on your website and actually listening to some interviews previously of you, I learned a little bit about how the saints can have their energy embedded into objects. And actually, I had, when I was living in Calgary, there was, at the time, the landlord that I had, he was Tibetan,
Yeah.
And he invited me over to the stupa in Calgary that was being built on the ski hill, Olympic ski hill. There's some property right next to the big ski jump there. In the there is a Tibetan Buddhist stupa that had been built, and into that stupa they have, well, there's clothing and books and different objects that the different monks have been using for, I don't know how many hundreds, maybe, many hundreds of years. And essentially what they do is there will be a monk stationed at that stupa to take, his responsibility is to basically do prayers around that stupa every day.
Mm.
And using with the actual energy of the saints that have left their mark in those objects, amplify that into the geographic location.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, so, going along those lines again, what Scott found, what was that, so the incorruptibility of the saints is this idea. Michael Murphy wrote a book called The Future of the Body, in which he is probably it is the best, most exhaustive research on the incorruptibility of the saints that I've seen in any book. It's in his book. It's one chapter dedicated to that. And he talks about all these different Christian, Catholic, and saints from other religions. Their body doesn't decay when they die. Or some of it will decay, but most of it won't. So, for example, I am trying to think of her name. I can't think of her name right now, but a Christian, a female saint, was buried, and then they dug her body up something like 40 years later, and only the ridge of the top of her nose had decayed. Everything else was pristine. There are several other types of saints where you see this. And what Scariotin came to was that this spiritual carrier wave was correlated with this incorruptibility. In other words, when you spend your life communicating with eternity, that the carrier wave that's involved with that communication literally gets down in your bones in your body and acts as because there is no death in eternity. Even though there's death in this physical universe, there's something about the body that remembers eternity and therefore can't decay because that spiritual saint spent so much time immersed in eternity.
Wow.
Right? So what I have found, what others have found, is that the spiritual carrier wave, when we couple it with another substance, we can use that carrier wave to actually extract the informational data field or the information blueprint of that substance. And then I found a way to do it digitally and then amplify that signal. So my big aha moment was when I started putting two and two together, and I thought, well, if I do this, this, and this, I can capture the signature of blue-green algae. And I just happen to have a bottle of this really nice blue-green algae from Upper Klamath Lake. And if you've ever taken high doses of that, you know that it makes you blissed out in a very specific way because it's got the PEA in it. And it's like a nootropic in and of itself. Mm-hmm. You can take too much of it, too. You have to be careful because it can really be overpowering if you take too much. And so I captured the signature of it. I ran it. I imported it into my software. I started building the signature. I played it back, and I was getting so high I couldn't believe it. I literally jumped out of my seat and ran outside. and thought, oh my God, what have I just discovered? How am I going to explain this to my business partners? They're never going to believe me.
Wow.
And
sorry, Eric.
yeah,
when did you do that experiment?
that was probably 7 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was about 7 years ago. And from then on, I started integrating the technology into our brainwave entrainment with a little bit of resistance. I have one partner who totally did not understand it. He wasn't having any tangible experience with it, even when I played it for him, because, again, there's that gap where most people just aren't that physically sensitive to subtle energy. And although I could feel it, he couldn't feel it. So he thought it was just the placebo effect. And he told me point blank that I should stop talking about it. And I said, with all due respect, I said, not only will I not stop talking about it, but everything I'm going to be focusing on is this.
Absolutely.
And then I found out 6 months later that he had been telling my other two partners behind my back that I was going to ruin their reputations, that I was a flake, I had no idea what I was talking about, and that they should part ways with me because I was going to ruin their reputations. Well, eventually, that aspect of the technology, which I called Biofield Technology at that time, became so popular. And as much as I did benefit from and appreciate the business I had there with John and Pam Dupuis, our other partner ended up leaving. As good as that was, there was a time when the relationship was no longer working, and I felt it was time to leave. And so I started Subtle Energy Sciences, dedicated solely to subtle energy technology. And quite frankly, Thomas, I believe the reason I have devoted myself to this against, I've had people tell me, marketers tell me I would never be able to launch this technology, no one would accept it, is because I believe that what I've created so far is just the scratch of the scratch of the scratch of what's possible.
Absolutely.
I believe that this is going to be the future of not only energy medicine, but medicine.
Yeah, actually, Eric, it reminds me of Star Trek: The Next Generation and replication technology aboard the Starship Enterprise. To ask the computer, make me a cup of coffee or whatever like that, right?
Yes.
And this is in subtle energy transmission through, using digital media. Herbs could actually be prescribed through capsules or powders, or this way even.
Or both. They can work synergistically. Both.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to replace one another,
Exactly.
Because each has their benefits, right? Depending on what approach you want to take, and their disadvantages. And if you're using both, the cool thing is, if you're buying like our version of the Chinese herbs, you only have to buy it one time. You don't have to buy them every month, and you can get a lot more out of the Chinese herbs that you are buying every month, because when you take them both at the same time, they act synergistically, and you get more out of those herbs that you're taking physically. And, like I said, there's just certain ways that you can apply them through the digital version that you can't do with the physical version. And in quantum physics, that's what quantum physics tells us. It says that matter, first it tells us that light has both particle-like and wave-like properties. And then through de Broglie, or however you pronounce his last name, we find out that matter, too, it has both wave-like and particle-like properties. But up to this point, most of conventional science is only, even though it admits that all matter has wave-like properties, it really isn't that friendly towards energy medicine yet, which is really is the wave-like version of medicine rather than the particle-like.
Right.
And so what we do is we found a way to capture those wave-like properties, those energy-like properties of various substances, digitize them, amplify them, put them in digital media, and then use those in a way that you basically make your electronics into very high-tech healing devices that then literally vibrate at the quantum level the same frequency as those herbs. Mm-hmm. And then those waves propagate through the air and then through the water in your body to have a symbiotic relationship with the same receptor sites that those herbs would. But it does it through the wave-like properties instead of the particle-like properties.
So how would you relate this with, say, if you were to compare your SES technologies with homeopathic medicine? Are they quite similar in respects? While you still have to consume homeopathic medicine, it would be a vibrational energy and it would be subtle.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarity, and then there are I'd say some strong dissimilarities, if that's the right word, as well. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the similarities. So the similarities would be with homeopathy, you're using the water as a medium of storage, right? So you introduce a substance. You succuss it. You take the substance out. You succuss it, and you keep succussing it, and you keep taking more of the substance out until there's really no more of the substance physically left in the water. And yet the molecular structure of the water changes because through the succussions, the informational, which is a type of resonance, by the way, right? The succussions cause, in some way, the energetic signature or the informational blueprint of that substance to become molecularly imprinted in the water. And the more succussions you do, the stronger the imprint gets. And so the water acts as a kind of storage device for that energetic blueprint, as well as a broadcast device and even an amplification device. Now, in the same way, we're using the digital space, the digital cyberspace, in exactly the same way. We capture the energy, but we use carrier waves to digitally capture the energetic signature of a substance, let's say in this case, blue-green algae, and we capture that signature digitally in digital space. So it exists in energetic form inside this digital cyberspace. We then have a proprietary software that in a way you could say it's like the multiple succussions that you're doing with water. Instead, it's the digital space, and we do many of these multiple digital succussions that not only transfer that informational blueprint into the digital space, but also amplify its signature so it becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And then we can encode that into digital media, video, pictures, audio, such that when you play them back, they produce that energetic blueprint in vibrational form that creates a field that interfaces with the electromagnetic field of the device and then propagates through the air, propagates through sound, and then once the torsion fields reach your body, they propagate through the water in your body. So we have that in common with it is kind of like a digital homeopathy. Where it would be different would be homeopathy tends to work with opposites. So, right. So if this would be closer to like flower essences. But I would call it like flower essences on steroids because it's much more amplified, lot less subtle, and some of the latest beta programs that are still being beta tested I've been sending out. I just received a testimonial from someone who said this is not subtle at all.
Right.
You know, so I would say that it's like I would call it like highly amplified flower essences on steroids, basically, but without the negative connotations of steroids, of course.
Right.
So that's hopefully that answers your question. And now, also, what this reminds me of too is it's been a while since I've gone back and read the study. You might even know more about it than I do. But Luc Montagnier, who worked with another French scientist who had done this, I think he replicated his study, where they were able to record the energetic signature. I think it was of a virus or something like that.
That's right.
And then they sent it through the email.
Right.
They digitized it, sent it through the email, and reconstituted the virus in a glass of water, hundreds of miles away.
Yeah, 1,500. Actually, that's how I found you, Eric, was through that Luc Montagnier water memory. I found the YouTube video of the documentary film of Luc Montagnier and that experiment. And then I thought, well, there's got to be someone that's actually doing this for, transmitting, say, herbs and life-affirming substances that would be beneficial to life. And actually, I found you. I found SES right after watching that water documentary. So Luc Montagnier, in a lab in Paris, recorded through some type of a microphone a wave file of watered down HIV virus. So like homeopathic of HIV in water, recorded that as a wave file, sent that wave file through the email from his lab in Paris to a lab in Italy, 1,500 kilometers away. And then from the wave file received in Italy, took that recording and played that to water and reconstituted it in Italy. It's just phenomenal.
It is. It is, and he's a Nobel scientist.
Yes.
Of course, when he did this, all the naysayers came out and said it was pseudoscience. But I can give you other examples. We have Dr. Massimo Citro, who does something similar, but he works with pharmaceutical medicines. He's written a book called The Basic Code of the Universe, the Science of the Invisible. He's an Italian doctor. I highly recommend the book. And he has developed his own method in which basically what he's done is created a kind of Tesla coil with an input and an output. For the output, he puts an alcoholic or hydroalcoholic solution. And on the input, he'll put a pharmaceutical medication. Turns the machine on, and he's able to extract, again, the informational blueprint, the informational data field of that pharmaceutical using the coil, and then deposit it, encode it into the hydroalcoholic solution such that when he has his patients drink the solution, they get the benefits of the medication without any of the negative side effects. Now, he has found there is one exception that I know of that I can remember, and that is with people who suffer from schizophrenia. Mm-hmm. They will they'll get the benefits, but they'll also get the negative side effects as well. And that seems to have something to do with some missing or chaotic element in their neurology. But what he's found is that he was able, for example, to extract the energetic signature of MDMA and then use this in a study with people who were detoxing and getting off MDMA, and they were able to detox off of that medication, without any of the negative side effects, without the big depression and all that, but they weren't getting high on it either. So he's found a lot of positive uses for it. He's published scientific papers on it. So then you have another guy by the name of, if I can remember his name, Luigi Pierre Igina. He's also Italian. He was apparently an apprentice to Marconi. And he did one experiment in which he was able to extract the energetic signature of an apple tree and then broadcast that energetic signature to a peach tree, and within 16 days, the peach tree was producing apples.
Wow.
Or it was the other way around. The apple tree was producing peaches.
Okay.
There's a Chinese scientist who did several things similar, but with animals, which is a little scary. It's not something I would, but he did it to where he was broadcasting the energetic signature, if I remember correctly, of ducks to chicken eggs, and they were giving birth to these chicken-duck hybrids. Okay, so information. Well, people say, how is that possible? Well, the way I explain it is, now, we're far enough in our common, layman's understanding of physics that most people understand the phrase, everything is energy, right? Mm-hmm. Some people take it further and say everything is frequency. What I've learned is that's a nice generalization, but it's also very wrong in other ways. There's a lot missing elements there. But one of those missing elements is information. So one way I would rephrase that is everything is informed energy. Now, how do we get to that? So again, we talked about quantum physics. Quantum physics agrees, and I'm not saying that quantum physics is right in everything. In my experience, I would say that when it comes to conventional science, and I'm not trying to say that in a pejorative sense, but often conventional science it's subject to the rigidity of the human mind. It's just as much subject to indoctrination and dogmatism and rigidity as any religious mind, So often conventional science is slow to catch on to the cutting edge. But we can agree that, this idea that everything is energy, there's a lot of people nowadays that can understand that, and that makes sense to them. So quantum physics, takes that further. It really, quantum physics is basically another way of looking at Einstein's E equals mc squared, where he basically says that matter and energy are the same thing. Energy is matter multiplied by the velocity of light squared. So if you speed everything up to the velocity of light squared, it becomes pure energy. But if we want to reverse that process and slow all that energy down so that it becomes matter again, what is it that tells that big glob, that big mass of energy to become you, to become me, to become a lizard or a bird or a couch or a chair or a tree or a plant?
Yeah, there
or
has to be.
Or an asteroid.
Right.
Right?
There has to be an information signature.
That's right. There's something informing it how to differentiate and be itself. So there's something informing its form and informing its function. Now, part of that ties into Rupert Sheldrake's morphic fields. It's a non-physical informational field that builds up over time and is associated through habit and memory. It's a kind of memory field associated with specific life forms and specific forms. And it is part of what informs the habitual nature of that species or that substance. So I have 2 cats, and I've noticed that no matter how many different cats I see, they each have their own personality, but they all act like cats, right? And because there's something informing the cat species how to be and act like a cat. Well, the average person who doesn't know any better, and even some physicists or biologists will say, well, that's their genes. The problem is that genetic science does not fully explain that. It can't fully explain genetic inheritance, why we inherit certain things. But morphic fields explains it very well. And in fact, Rupert Sheldrake has done or helped inform certain numerous scientific experiments that show us that how, for example, what they do, this is off the top of my head, I haven't thought about this one for a while, but there's one where they work with mazes, rats and mazes.
Okay.
Right? And they find the rats that learn the mazes the quickest, and they keep teaching the rat the maze. And then the ones who learn the maze and can go through it the quickest, they mate those. And successive generations learn it quicker. So the information is getting encoded into their genes, but it wasn't the genes that created the information, right? The information was integrated into their genetic potential, right? And so so there was some. So in other words, that habit of learning the maze over and over and over again got integrated into the genetics, and so the genetics helped carry it on. But it lets us know that we're not totally subject to our genetics. That we can change those genetics. We can change all of that, and at any moment in time, just because something was genetically passed on, it can be genetically unlearned. But morphic fields does help. There's been other studies that show, for example, if they take, there was one study where they took a group of kids learning the real Morse code, and another group of students who learned fake Morse code. The group learning the real Morse code learned it much more quickly. And the idea is because that field, there's already been a field around Morse code that's been built up. It's non-physical, and it's already associated with the human species. So when they had to learn it, they were able to energetically or resonantly tap into that field unconsciously and learn much more quickly. So, again, we find this idea of information. So information in some ways is more important than the genetics. If you can change the information, you can change the genetics.
Right.
Right? So do you have something to
Yeah,
go on
I was
there?
going to say, I have a book, and it says, it talks about radionics and non-locality, and they were saying in that book, change the energy and you change the manifestation of the mass.
Yes.
Well, it seems that actually a better statement would be, if you change the information, you can change the manifestation of the mass.
Right, and essentially, when you talk about information, you're simultaneously talking about energy as well, because the best way I've known how to try and give expression to this, and I'm not saying it's the end-all, be-all of this. It's the best way I know how to express it, is that, let me see if I can remember it. Information is it's the blueprint that informs, it's the blueprint and the patterning that informs something how to be itself. But that blueprint and that patterning requires an energetic body or a wave on which to ride as its vehicle to deliver that information. So wherever you have information, you also have energy, and that's why I like to use the term informed energy. And yeah, so what we're doing is we're basically working on these principles of that everything has an informational data field. So like with the audio rejuvenation, it's based on the traditional Chinese medicine tradition of Jing herbs, special, time-proven, even nowadays scientifically proven herbs that build the primal Jing essence, which is sort of like the battery of our physical body. The more it's basically the more Jing you have, the more energy you have to power everything else about you, including the mental and the spiritual aspects.
Absolutely.
And it's the anti-aging. You probably know more about this than I do.
Yeah, Jing is actually, I have a video up. It's talking about the three treasures. And so in this video, I use an analogy of a candle. So the candle itself, like the candle wax, that is the analogy for the Jing. And essentially, so there's the three treasures are Jing, Qi, and Shen. So essentially, the Jing is the structural aspect, the neurotransmitters, all of your enzymes, your hormone system. That's your Jing. So for longevity, you'd like to protect your Jing, and you'd also like to cultivate your Jing. So Taoist sages have methods of doing that through, for example, sexual cultivation methods, where instead of releasing through orgasm, they retain and they recycle, and they basically continue to cultivate that energy inside of themselves. So the more Jing one has, the longer their lifespan. There's a correlation relationship that way. And so I always share with people, okay, well, you'd like to consume, basically you'd like to maintain balance. And use Jing is kind of like your principal amount in your trust fund, so to speak. So you'd like to live off the interest, not squander the principal amount. So Jing is very important. And in Chinese medicine, we have these specific herbs that are they're basically to prevent the leakage of Jing, but also to tonify them within the body. So this Hushawu is one of these very powerful Jing tonic herbs. That's originally what I found when I was looking into your SES products, was this audio rejuvenation with the Jing tonic herbs. And I found Hushawu was actually in that. So I was very excited when I saw that. But back to this analogy of the candle. So now people who are under physical, chemical, emotional stress, not enough sleep, not digesting or absorbing nutrition, so poor digestion, and say if they're also lacking on lung capacity, so deficiency in lung capacity. These are the ways that we renew ourselves with energy. So if any percentage of those are lacking, it's going to have an effect on decreasing one's constitution. So Jing tonic herbs are a way, so if you're taking those, it will continue to charge the battery or keep the battery strong, so to speak. Keep the constitution strong. Back to this analogy of the candle. So the candle flame, the flame is consuming oxygen. So we could liken oxygen to chi. If you say take a glass and put the glass over the candle and you take away the oxygen, you'll put out the flame. So oxygen is very important. I don't feel it's just oxygen that we're consuming. I feel that there's more to that equation. And there's also many types of qi in Chinese medicine. So
yes.
So it's not just one specific type of qi. So
right.
Zong pectoral qi is like the air qi, basically. That's combined with the nutritive qi from food, gu qi. So, and then there's another type of qi called wei qi, which is our immune system, immunity. So, essentially, though, when you have the right amount, it's about creating balance and maintaining balance. So, not having an excess or a deficiency. That's what's required to create a strong shen, and the shen is seen in the eyes. When you look into someone's eyes, you'll see if their eyes are bright or dim, and that's the shen. That's the electromagnetic aura. You're seeing their vibration, their energy, how vital they are, their vitality through the shen. So those are the three treasures, and that candle wax is very important. That's, like I said, it's related to longevity. So those people who are burning the candle at both ends, that's very detrimental. Okay, we have to help you manage stress and create balance within your life. And so this is another wonderful thing about creating balance within the environment too. I feel that not only can we be consuming within our physical bodies, but also working with cultivating energy within our local areas in which we live. So our homes, our bedrooms, our office, our spaces in which we exist. So I feel that it's important to create a sanctified environment. And I also feel that your technology has the capacity to shift the energy in the environment so that it is not a stressful space, that it's a life-affirming space. So part of the stress management again, like a stress management technology.
Exactly. And, it's interesting. We live in a day and age where more than ever, we're more environmentally aware, environmentally conscious, yet no one ever talks about our subtle environment. No one talks about the conditioning of our spaces. And if you've ever been like a part of a group meditation class or any group that's focusing on a goal together, that's working together, there's a synergy there, right? Mm-hmm. The literal space is charged. And we find that in the science of subtle energy, there's a scientific basis for this. Mm-hmm. And so, this is not just, although we refer to it as digital energy medicine, it's also a kind of environmental conditioning technology that conditions the space in which you're living according to whatever purpose you might have, whether it's feeling better, improving your health, feeling more centered, developing the Jing through the wave-like properties of, the best Jing herbs. That's what we're trying to do with this technology. as I see it, I mean, I feel like that as I said before at the beginning, that we're just scratching the scratch of the scratch of the scratch. We're just really getting in, touching upon the higher potential of this technology. Imagine if we had hospital rooms that sped up recovery by 100%, cut down on your hospital bills, right? Of course, hospitals would have to redo their whole structure, their whole profit structure.
Yeah, I'd
but
really like to see
people are moving through much quicker.
Sorry, I was just going to say I'd really like to see medicine integrated, so everybody under the same roof and working together. Integrated medicine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and the idea is that eventually, I mean, also we will be always working with other health professionals. That a lot of the power is also put in our hands. That's what we want to do. We want to put the power of healing into the people's hands.
Absolutely.
So that the whole healthcare craze and what are we going to do about healthcare? I can't afford healthcare. Well, ultimately, I come from the ethos that we're each responsible for our own health, ultimately. And if we can create technology that's affordable, it's very flexible in how it can be used, and such that we can allow the people to become their own doctors. So that doesn't necessarily mean moving away from health professionals like yourself, but it means giving more of the power to them, and each of us having more power that route. But we're still always going to have professionals that we work with. There's still always going to be a need for that. It's just how that relationship works is going to evolve and change.
Absolutely. Like I see myself as an acupuncturist as a catalyst of change, like a facilitator to assist the body in self-healing. Yeah. So the body is healing itself, but I can help modulate the nervous system to improve blood flow, and all of the healing analgesics are in the bloodstream. So hormones, oxygen, nutrition.
Very true.
Immune system.
And I also find that having, in whatever you're working in, having the guidance of someone who's experienced in that area is better often because they can see things you can't see. They're aware of things you're not aware of.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good to have many different specialists that you won't get advice from just one. You can see many, and everyone has their own specialization, and they might see something that someone else missed. So sure. I always encourage people to have, many facilitators, not just one. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I mentioned audio rejuvenation, so the idea with this is I got the idea for that because I've had requests from customers for a product that would help them build their Jing. And what's cool about it is it's used. You can set it and forget it. You don't have to. It's not like other mind-brain technologies where you have to devote an hour a day to them or 20 minutes a day. When you get really good at using them, which we give you all the proper instructions and the user manual, and you apply some of your own creativity, you just set it, forget it, and you're building a space that's building your Jing really pretty much effortlessly. And like I said, you don't have to continue to buy the herbs every month. You just buy it one time, and it continues to work for you and build your health. And it's interesting, some of the reports that we've received and how people apply this. One of the recent reports was someone said that they now I talked about the carrier waves that we use in our technology. We use carrier waves that also have the capacity to broadcast non-locally. And essentially what that means, well, I'll give you an example. So one report we received was this gentleman printed out, I think, like 12 copies of the audio rejuvenation PDF print and stacked them back to back and put them in a folder. And then he just put his picture in there. And he said that after about an hour or whatever of his picture being in there, he was ready to go home and basically work on the house and do all these projects he kind of been putting off, because it has a rejuvenative effect, which is why we use that term. But oftentimes for people who've been leaking a lot of Jing, when they first use it, it's actually very relaxing. So another report we received was from a gentleman who said that he just kind of got blissed out for a while. And then other customers talking about if they amplify it, eventually that deep sense of peace that comes on you, and almost you feel like you want to go to sleep at first, because it's essentially recharging your batteries like a good nap would.
Right.
And then if they take a little nap, they'll wake up and they're just ready to start the day, and they have plenty of energy, often an increase in libido as well, but without the jitters. It's not like caffeine. And I've noticed myself it has a huge effect on my confidence, on my state of mind, my mental energy, my ability to stay calm in stressful times, and when it really counts, it strengthens the mental body. But I just think it's a gift, and we're going to be planning to do an update to that product here in the next month or two. So it will, when I receive that update, all our existing customers who own that will receive the update absolutely free, and it will be more or less the equivalent of Audio Rejuvenation 2.0. So that's one of the things that we try to give our customers as much value as we possibly can. So
awesome. What would be your purpose, your vision for SES, Subtle Energy Sciences?
My general purpose and mission is to help, along with everyone else who has a similar mission, is to make way for heaven on earth. Make it that simple. But more specifically, we believe that this science of subtle energy is the future of consciousness technology, transforming our consciousness. It's the future of transforming our physical health, our emotional health. That there's so many ways we can transform our environments. It could be integrated into cities, various social environments. It can be used in music, video, and movies. Obviously, it could be used for wrong purposes, but under the right guidance and with the right people, it can be used to raise the consciousness of humanity, raise the health, raise the overall well-being of humanity, which is what we want to do. And essentially, I want to master the science of subtle energy as it has been given to me through inspiration, and in such a way as to empower people to be more of who they really are.
Nice. I'd like to also talk about how your products accomplish this.
Right. So essentially through resonance. So I have a product that's being beta tested right now. I don't know when it will be released, but we're calling it Tranquil Heart. And it's a heart-centered approach to anxiety and stress relief, which I think you'd agree that people need today.
Absolutely.
All right?
Yeah.
And people usually find that through things like, drug addiction, alcoholism, various addictions. We're all looking for anxiety and stress relief because I think there's kind of like an acceleration of time where we're all experiencing. I don't care how well balanced you are, how spiritual you are. We're all feeling that increase in stress and anxiety.
I gotta say, Eric, so I've been working with this test for, it's called Ragland's test. It's to determine the adrenal gland function.
Uh-huh.
So basically what it is taking blood pressure lying on one's back and then taking blood pressure immediately standing up and looking at the systolic numbers on the blood pressure. So what it is the adrenals produce adrenaline, and adrenaline is a vasoconstrictor, so it means it narrows the diameter of the vessel. Mm-hmm. So this is how the blood pressure is regulated in the body. So when one's adrenal glands are functioning properly, one will have enough adrenaline. So when they stand up vertically against gravity, the adrenals will output enough adrenaline to vasoconstrict the veins in the legs and the lower body to increase the blood pressure in the upper body, the chest and the head, to get the blood and oxygen up to the brain. Well, so I do this test for all my new patients, and I got to say that over 80% of my patients have adrenal fatigue. So meaning when they stand up, their blood pressure, instead of going up 8 to 10 points higher on the systolic, actually drops or doesn't go up at all. So there it is. I'm seeing 80% of the people that come to see me for acupuncture have adrenal fatigue. They're tired.
Well, there you go. So with Tranquil Heart, what we're attempting to do is, with the energetic signature that's broadcast through that program, if you play the video, the audio, or the energetically encoded picture, open it on your device, the idea is that that signature is going to resonantly integrate into your space and into your own biofield in a way that's super simple. Like I said, you don't have to set aside. You can play that while you're doing other things. It's designed to make human transformation as easy as possible, right? By conditioning the immediate space in which you're already operating in, and by doing that, this energetic signature works in such a way as to resonantly protect you from, calm the mind through the heart, and specifically through love and gratitude. The love and gratitude is very subtle. It's a very tranquil form of love and gratitude. But the idea is that it helps mitigate the sense of stress and the sense of worry and fear through the heart. And it does it resonantly. And you don't have to meditate. You can if you want. You don't have to. You don't have to solely give your attention to it. You can just set it and forget it while you do what you're doing. And through resonance, silent resonance, it will work even without volume, without sound. Mm-hmm. And it will energetically entrain your biofield to then start innervating the heart so that you become calmer and more tranquil. We may have to dial it back a bit because some of the beta testers are reporting that it's so relaxing they find it difficult to continue working. Others say that at first it's that way, but the more they use it, the more they're able to feel the calm and still work and not feel so relaxed. But one person said that he was just, he had to stop working and just lay down and bliss out. But it's through resonance. That's how we plan to do it. It's really through resonance, right? As I believe that is the master language of the universe. And so what we're really trying to do is to go beyond the physical, go beyond the mental, and work at the blueprint of resonance and create these designer resonant environments that will, depending on which of these products or which of these resonant environments you choose and what your goals are, they create the perfect energetic environment in which you will naturally do what you want to do because there's no more resistance anymore. If you've ever noticed, if you're in a group of people that are aspiring to a certain goal, it's easier to achieve that goal when you're around them because the environment is charged that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what we're trying to do. That's the main. It's through resonance, create these harmonious environments that allow you to be more of who you really are.
Awesome. So for the viewers of this, I'd just like to say the ways that you can apply the SES technologies. There are mandalas, and they are to be applied to your, say, cellular phone. It could also be applied to your tablet. It can be applied to your personal computer, your laptop. And you can set it up as a mandala on as a background. So just like a wallpaper desktop. There's different versions of the mandalas. There's the mild versions, which can be, depending on a person's sensitivity level, they can be always open on the desktop. And for those who are not feeling the energy and they'd like a little bit more, there's a strong version of the mandala that can be applied. And as well, there are audio files for a lot of the SES products, and the audio files are also carrying the information. So for example, audio rejuvenation, you could have actually both going. Say for example, if you have an iPod, you could be getting the benefit of the mandala and the audio simultaneously. What are some more examples of SES products and the top reasons to employ them?
We have, as I mentioned, audio rejuvenation. We just received digital CBD. We just released that. That's fast becoming a favorite of a lot of people. What we're hearing from people right off the bat is we've had people who are very skeptic. One gentleman said I was very skeptical, and I opened up 3 copies of the video. By the way, all this technology is amplifiable. So we talked about traversing the gap of creating a subtle energy technology that's powerful enough for people, even when most people aren't that sensitive to subtle energy. How do you make it strong enough, powerful enough to overcome that insensitivity so that they can resonantly and tangibly either feel the energy directly or feel the benefits and the effects of that energy? And as our technology progresses, our newest products keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And digital CBD is one of the strongest products we've ever released. And this particular gentleman said that he opened up 3. And like I said, by the way, it's amplifiable. So we give you instructions to show you how to amplify the energy on your own. Just takes a little time. And if you're willing to take just a little bit of time, doesn't cost any more money, you can amplify the energy of this as much as you want. And this particular gentleman said he opened 3 copies of the video and had it playing on a computer for his mother, and that she only typically experiences pain relief from her condition when she takes real physical CBD oil. And he said that within 15 minutes she was completely out. That's because digital CBD is a highly amplified form of CBD, which even the regular form, the physical form, the particle form, is very relaxing, but the digital form is even more relaxing because it's highly amplified. And one thing we're hearing is that a lot of people, just within 30 minutes of playing the audio or the video, it puts them out, like they're ready to go to sleep. Very relaxing. It's helping speed up recovery. And it's essentially giving people the same benefits that they would get from CBD oil, but without actually having to take the physical supplement. And if you've ever taken it, it's pretty expensive. The oils that we sampled from cost as much as $50 for 14 servings, and if you're taking 2 servings a day, that's basically $50 a week. $200 a month there. So again, it's moderately priced, and I believe it's the future of medicine. I believe it's very possibly the future of CBD. So we have digital CBD, we have digital nootropic, which is another product that combines energetic signatures of some of the best nootropics out there to create a powerful energetic brain tonic. We have Catalyst, which is designed principally to just overcome procrastination and to move forward with your goals. You play it while you're working on a particular goal or a particular project, and it supercharges your determination and your initiative to move forward and keep moving forward until the project is finished. We also have Pure White Light, which is the energetic signature of white light. It's very healing. We have Earth Pulse, which is the energetic signature of the Schumann resonance. It's another way of introducing the Schumann resonance into your environment without using electromagnet. It's done subtle energetically. It's done through subtle energetic pulses through your electronic devices, and we have both a mild and a strong version that can be used for meditation. Digital acupuncture, which simulates some of the meridian balancing benefits of acupuncture energetically. And then we have the golden proportion energy mandala, which is the energy of the golden proportion. It's very balancing. We have the headache relief mandala. This year we have I'm very excited about being very productive this year, and I think we're going to have probably anywhere between a dozen to 2 dozen or more products come out this year that I'm pretty excited about. So, and as I said, I feel like we're just scratching the scratch of what's possible. It's going to keep getting better and better.
Awesome. What are some of your favorite and most memorable testimonials from people that are employing your products right now?
One of my favorites is really one of the very first I ever received when I started this business. It has been, it's going on 3 years now. We're just a few months short of 3 years in business. And my initial offering, I created a free offering to people that I called Quiet Mind Meditation. It was a mandala, a digitally encoded picture file that had the brainwaves of alpha, theta, delta, and epsilon encoded into it, as well as a signature for helping quiet the mind, to help people just to enter into a quiet state of meditation. And simply by opening that picture on your computer, laptop, or phone, and it didn't require that you actually look at it in order to work. It just had to be active on the computer's processor. And it would automatically emanate its energy. And when I first sent this out and started just giving it away, a lady who was a psychotherapist on the East Coast told me that she started sharing it with her clients. She had one client who said that apparently, so she was very problematic. They couldn't find any help for her. I don't know what she was suffering from. She couldn't leave the house. She found it very difficult to leave the house. She had very high forms of anxiety. She couldn't swallow her medicine that she was supposed to take without gagging. And they gave her this mandala. They showed her how to set it up and how to amplify it. And they said within 24 hours she was out shopping and taking her medicine without gagging. Another one of her clients said that she suffered from fibromyalgia, and she became so relaxed while this was playing that she said apparently she experienced, I don't know if it was complete relief from the pain, but apparently a relief where it was just total relaxation. She was actually able to think. Her mind wasn't overwhelmed with pain anymore. And she was crying when she was writing out this testimonial, she told me. So those are two of my favorites.
Wow, that's awesome. And I'm sure you're probably receiving a lot of testimonials every day. I noticed there's a lot of testimonials, written testimonials, on your website. So yeah, people are really excited. And then you also have your Facebook page, and there's a lot of testimonials up there as well. People are talking about their success with the products there. So yeah, I'm going to encourage people who are tuned in that you can check out Eric's products. I have a link on guidingneedleacupuncture.com. If you're interested, Eric, would you like to share your information about your blog and for those people who are interested, and then also your website?
Well, sure. I would encourage you to plug your own website there as well, Thomas. But yeah, the website's really simple. It's subtle.energy, SUBTLE.energy. And you can find us on Instagram at subtle_energy_sciences. You can find us on Facebook at Subtle Energy Sciences. And I think that's it.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to share these revolutionary technologies with the viewers today, Eric. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to working with more of your technologies and sharing them with all of the viewers here.
Well, it's my pleasure, Thomas. I really appreciate your support. It means a lot to me. And look forward to working with you.
Okay, well, thank you again, Eric.